All right, welcome to Across the Chain. I'm Jared Lutz. This is Pat Cassidy, my good buddy from across the states. How you doing,
Yeah, in the
Pat?
chain.
How
Howdy,
was
Jared.
how was this last week for you?
Oh, it was great. It was fantastic. Unbeatable.
Yeah. All right,
No, it
man.
was okay, man. It was
Yeah.
okay.
Well, the crypto world has sort of like been bouncing around. I feel like we've seen this happen before, like its entire journey. But yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit on the market segment, and we'll go over some news pieces, and I think we'll wrap it up kind of early.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
All right, man. All right, so let's dive into this first article is coming from zycrypto.com, and it's about Elon Musk buying Twitter. So
What?
yeah, dude, I'm actually like pretty stoked about this going on,
Elon
man.
Musk bought Twitter?
It's gonna be very interesting to sort of see play out. I'm very interested to see if they have any like difficulties. But one of the biggest thing is what this article is talking about, the use cases for Dogecoin as a currency, and I mean because we've been seeing this as a use case. We were talking about last week about that one place in Maryland, that Porsche dealership that was accepting it as currency to buy a car. That's such a limited use case, right? Because it's like one dealership in the United States. This is obviously like way different. Let's just read a bit of the article and see what they're talking about here. So, businesses accepting Doge payments. Dogecoin co-founder Billy Marcus outlined three key elements that will add more utility to the meme coin. This includes businesses accepting Doge, using Doge as tipping currency, which is something that was already introduced on Twitter. Right, I've never played around with that. Have you ever played around with it?
Yeah, so I haven't because I'm pretty sure it's on Twitter Live, which I've
Uh,
never done. So I mean, effectively, it's with the trend that literally every media company is doing right now, which is gating. Every single company just trying to do the exact same thing as every other media company. Like I don't know if you noticed, Apple Podcasts, for example, is switching to a subscription based model where they're
mm-hmm.
encouraging their creators to gate their content. Right, like do you want the premium? And Twitter did that with premium with Twitter Blue. Facebook now is trying to do subscription services for their podcast or content in general, competing with Patreon and the like. And Twitter is offering compensation if you're going live on their platform. I believe through tipping. I'm like 99% sure, but I haven't gone live, so I haven't experienced the situation. But you create a room, people come in your room, and they can tip you.
Yeah, I mean this is huge implications I think for Doge. So like, all right, so there are many speculating as to the role of Dogecoin, how it could come into play with Musk's Twitter acquisition, among other integrations that are being speculated on. The integration of Dogecoin tipping on Twitter is gaining immense traction. So I mean, this like brings global utility right away. My issue, and I am like really interested to see what the developers of Doge do, but with this, because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but there are 14.4 million new token created every day for Doge.
Because it's
So
an inflationary token, right?
yeah, it inflates about 4% a year. So we were talking about this internally with Jay, who's working behind me, and he's like, well, what the fuck does that matter, right? Like where it's, yeah, of course, if we get this level of utilization where it's on Twitter, with that many more people acquiring it, obviously the value of it's going to go up. More people would be getting it than, like, it'd be outpacing the inflation.
Is
But
that true though?
well, I mean, if and I don't know what the exact metrics are, like, because it wouldn't be if it had 4% uh increase in utilization. That's not exactly how the price correlation would work, because if people are just buying it and using it right away, and it's getting sold back into the exchange, then you're not likely to see um, it go up in value. I mean, you're going to see lots of volume, but like you're not going to necessarily see it. Like if there's $100 million that goes into it in one day, but 100 million goes out, then there's not going to be any price difference at the end, right? So it depends on how
Yeah.
many people use it as a store of value, right? So like how many people hold on to it. as an investment and not as like a currency to
Oh, man,
exchange.
it's so strange though because okay, so like it's inflationary, like all fiat currency, right? I don't
Mm.
know if they did that specifically to mirror fiat currency,
Well, I
but
mean, it's a joke, right? They created
as
it
a
as a
joke,
joke.
right?
Yeah.
So the issue, right? Like you can't control inflation with fiat currency. You have no choice which currency you use. There's only so many, and inflation's going to do what it's going to do. But you also spend that currency every day, all day.
Yeah.
So it's less of, I guess, a pain. But like Doge, just like every other crypto, people are buying it and holding it, if nothing else, just because there's nothing you can do with it. Right now, the only thing to do with Doge really is to treat it like a stock, with the exception of like, if Twitter were to accept tipping or the actual functionality of it as a currency, but it's just very limited. So it just seems to me that like it's asking a lot of the holder to deal with the inflation before the opportunity to spend it like an actual currency exists on a mass scale.
Yeah, I totally. And but this is part of the acceptance part, right? This is where we're getting the global adoption. Is are they going like are we going to see more and more businesses pick this up? And as we do, and I don't think this is going to be an immediate cause and effect. This is like 5, 10 years down the line. I think if it's not Doge, it's going to be something else, right? I think we are going to see. I think personally, we're going to see individual businesses creating their own and operating it less like a currency, although it is used as their medium of exchange for products and services, but also in the form of like reward programs or
See,
stuff like that.
that makes sense to me with Reddit. So
Yeah, right.
Reddit announced their coin, like Moon Coin or whatever, and I ended up buying on like the Rinkerby test market or whatever before it
Yeah,
officially came out. But so Reddit, I'm sure if you're listening to this or watching this, you're probably familiar. But Reddit built in a effectively a self-policing system of quality, in that like the community of Reddit does not want to deal with shilling. They don't want to deal with bullshit. They don't want to deal with like
I don't think anyone
engineered
does. Yeah.
engineered usage of their energy and what they can do to something on the internet in terms of blowing it up. So, like, if you go and you post something that's not of value to the community, that's only there to serve yourself, it gets taken down. Like posting on Reddit, if you're brand new to Reddit, you try to post something, it's a fucking nightmare. Because like you'll
Mm.
try to post in a certain subreddit, like you don't have enough karma to do this. It's like, okay, well, how do I do it? It's really challenging. But at the same point, it's created a currency, right, of social capital, right? I appreciate what you're doing. I know you. I like what you're doing. I'll upvote this, right? And Reddit implementing a currency makes total sense to me, because it's like, oh, I can, instead of spending with my upvote, I'll spend with my currency, my Reddit currency. Now, like other businesses that don't have that community element, I find it really challenging to wrap my head around how their currency or launching their own currency would make sense, right?
Yeah, well, where I've conceptualized it in the past, like I think the last time I started, or when I started thinking about this was like 6 months ago. It was where because look, no businesses are doing this yet, and and I do think that they will. But if you look at the top 100 tokens, like none of them are creating products or services or generating like actual revenue for said products and service. But where I see like there being like a Nordstrom coin or whatever it is, a Macy's or whatever store it is, what I thought was like a really cool concept is that it's the exchange and the arbitration, right? So like if I have a wallet of all of these different tokens, I can theoretically buy the Macy's coin at like whatever. So if I see that Bitcoin is doing super well that day, the exchange rate into Macy's could be more significant rather than if I were holding on to like Doge, right? And it wasn't, then I wouldn't use that to buy the Macy's token. But to your point, like why would you need to buy the Macy's token to begin with? I don't know. It depends on their ecosystem and if they're providing benefits like with Crow, we're seeing this a lot with Crow, which is from crypto.com, where they're incentivizing people to buy their token and hold it for like 6 months, right? And then you get a debit card or you get some sort
Right.
of product or service, right? So if Macy's or any of these other stores were to do something like that, I think people would purchase those tokens, which creates the ability to leverage like with your portfolio. So if you
Well,
have
look,
something that's outpacing Macy's, you could actually potentially buy products for cheaper.
outpace the mace. Let me ask you this
Outpace the
question.
base. I like that. That's good.
Okay, so it makes sense to me, like KuCoin, for example, right? Like I hold KuCoin in my wallet because it helps or it waives transaction fees or it lowers transaction fees.
Hmm.
Cool, I get that. Let's take Delta Airlines for example. I am a member of Delta Airlines Delta Club, right? So I pay, I think it's like $300 or $400 a year, and it gives me access to the Delta Lounge. And I did the math. It's like, what am I spending on beers in the airport over the course of a year? It's well over $400. So I'm saving money because it's open bar, free food. Now, I'm going to do that. That's a subscription-based service. It's an upsell, right? It's a high-end service within Delta's service, which is, obviously airfare first and foremost. Now, I could see Delta saying, hey, instead of spending the $400, hold 400 Delta tokens, right, if they were equal to $1. I could see them doing that, but I'm trying to wrap my head from the Delta end of it. What would give them the advantage of that? Because that's what we're seeing, right? Like on PooCoin, for example, they have that really cool feature where if you want to track a wallet specifically, like for shadow trading, you got to hold 100 PooCoin, and then you have access to that feature, right?
Yeah. So on
It's
their
essentially the same thing as gating, right? So like I'm trying to get what's the difference between me giving Adobe $50 a month to have the Creative Suite, right? Unlocking that for me versus me holding $50 of Adobe token every month to unlock it. What's the advantage for Adobe?
Well, that so one if you're just using if you're just paying for Adobe, right? So it depends on their tokenomics and their ecosystem, because if they're trying to get their own store of value out of it, or this would increase people purchasing, right? So if I'm just using fiat and I'm buying Adobe for their Creative Suite, I could potentially at any time switch to something else. I mean, they don't really have much competitors, but if they did, it would be easier for me to switch over there
Yeah, you could get
versus
Corel Paint or something. Yeah.
yeah, versus like, okay, let's say I'm paying $50 a month, but if I buy their token and I hold it or like put it in an escrow account or stake it for 6 months, well now Adobe knows that I'm not leaving for 6 months, right? So customer retention could be huge for them. And then on our side, and I think that's mostly where it comes down to is
Really, but
it,
that just seems like that's the same as like making a challenge to cancel a service, like in Telus, for example, like the background check service. Like I made the mistake of signing up for that one time,
yeah,
and canceling in Telus required me to like literally cancel my bank account to get
yeah,
Telus to stop charging me.
that's ridiculous.
Now
Yeah,
that was a pain in the ass.
yeah, I mean, but for them, like to their shareholders and stuff, knowing what the subscription base is and that it's locked, right? That's going to be huge to their shareholders, especially on like their quarterly earnings, and but also it creates an environment where like if you hold the token, maybe you get 10% off, right? So now
Right.
or 20%. So now I'm not paying $50, I'm paying $40. So it benefits both sides of the party, and I think that's the only way to make it successful is
Yeah.
if
I,
I don't know, but
I,
we're gonna see it, man. It's gonna happen.
I feel
I
like the
don't.
only one that makes sense to me is like when someone has a base product, like back to KuCoin. KuCoin has a base product, right? And
Mm,
they have a token. They're looking for adaptation with their token, right? So they're adding a technology, right? I guess it's different. They're adding a reduction in fee. A better example would be like if Adobe had one feature, right, that they'd already created. It wasn't necessary to every person, you know, and if you're holding a certain amount of Adobe token, it unlocks this feature. Let's say they made their money back on the investment they put in to develop that feature in the first year. Everything after that is just gravy to them. It's essentially just, I guess, getting people to have the token because they want their token to be an actual ahead of the pack of actual tokens that are spent in crypto. Like they want mass adoption. They want to be like Bitcoin, I guess. I
I
kind of
don't
see it
see it
that way.
as
Like,
I don't see it as a store of value.
okay,
I mostly see it as their store of value isn't it increasing in price as much as it increasing user retention. That's what
hmm
that's how I see it. But going along with business, right? And going so let's go into this next article, which is the mutual fund giant Fidelity pushes Bitcoin pension plans. This was announced yesterday, and Bitcoin savings plan has been introduced by Fidelity Mutual Fund, large Fidelity investments. How many times can we put Fidelity in one sentence? is within the right direction, not off course, to permit customers to feature Bitcoin in their 401k savings plans. So this is cool, right? And this is one of those things. I don't know if we were talking about last week or the week before, but this is one of those things where this is what's going to push us to adoption at an unprecedented rate. So in this next segment, we're going to talk about the market just a little bit, and this is where people like large institutions like Fidelity moving towards 401k. We're talking about people investing in Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies in holding it for long periods of time, like decades, right? So I don't know the exact metrics, but like if you look at what 401k when they introduced it in the 70s or 80s, what it did to the stock market, it introduced a significant amount of money, right? Because it was taking from the people's paychecks and locking it up for decades, right? And people can get out of it, but they're going to get taxed. So this is what I think is going to push Bitcoin over 100k and beyond, is where we start seeing people allocating portions of their paycheck every 2 weeks into Bitcoin, and it's going to be stored there for a while.
It would be good to know, like, at what portion, because I mean, it would make sense if you're like Fidelity and you're managing a massive amount of wealth, to, especially in the space of like a 401k, which I don't know shit about traditional investing, but from what I do know, I'm pretty sure 401k investments are like as conservative as possible in terms of, you know, how it's generated the revenue. It would make sense for you to hedge, right? It would make sense for you to have a hedge. An insurance, if you will. So I could see Bitcoin from that perspective being interesting, but it just really depends, like how much it's going to be. Like, is it going to be some? Is it going to be like 1%?
That's up to Fidelity, but it's not just up to Fidelity. Like, I go into my 401k all the time and I adjust it.
Like to go to have a 401k.
It's nice. I don't know. I like to diversify, right? So
you just like to look at it and stuff.
No, dude, I never look at it. Like I think I go in like quarterly, and I might, and I don't adjust. Like I can't really adjust.
Before they don't exist, dude.
What's that?
So you better get there before they don't exist.
I know, right? Yeah. I go in there and I might just like adjust how aggressive it is, right? So like I could do
you just get it angry.
Aggressive. Yeah, I like it getting angry.
Keep it up. Sure. Don't let it sleep.
No, I like that thing conservative. But I mean, I would if I could choose, and I think Fidelity would do something like this. Like you can choose how aggressive you want it to be, depending on like who does your 401k. But I would see people.
I gotta be right back, buddy. I will be returning. Okay. I'll return in 2 minutes.
All right, we'll come back to so talking about Fidelity. I don't know, man. I think that they will, not just Fidelity, but any other major firm. I think that they're going to push 4 to 5% into. I think that's a pretty conservative amount into cryptocurrencies, if not like a little bit less. But I don't know. I think 5% would be good. I would definitely be cool with my 401k management firm doing that I use Mass Mutual for doing like a 5%. That's definitely lower risk against that. So let's go ahead and move into kind of like, and we're really focused on business here, right? So we were talking about Twitter and how cryptocurrency can be introduced into Twitter with Elon Musk purchasing it. Then also Fidelity introducing cryptocurrency. These are large institutions that are starting to introduce cryptocurrency into their framework and for their customers. And going into this other survey, 80% of institutional investors expect crypto to overtake traditional investments in 10 years. These are all aligned. These are all super similar, right? So like this is where we're really starting to see crypto become adopted on a global scale. So this is a pretty impressive survey. 80% of investors said that they believe it's going to be that crypto will be an asset class that will overtake traditional investment vehicles in the next decade. This was done off of 23,000 participants. Let's see where that is right there. 28,563 from 23 different countries. So this is super impressive. I mean, that's a large sampling. to get this stat, and it's all in line that we're moving towards that global adoption. That doesn't mean that we're going to shoot straight up, right? Like this is a process. It's going to take a lot of regulation, and I would be shocked if we didn't go into more of a bear market before we saw this huge jump. I think corrections are obviously normal, and they are healthy. So, and that also presents an amazing opportunity for us as retail investors to come in at a lower price, especially if we believe in the long-term impacts of cryptocurrency and adoption of it. So this is definitely a cool article to read up on. So let's go away from market news now. Let's transition into the health on the market. All right, so this last week was pretty volatile. Let's step into a chart here. All right, Pat's back. All right, Pat. We are talking about the health on the market now.
Gross.
And
here's what I can tell you, Jared.
I
looked at my I got like I forget which program it is, but keeps track of all my wallets, tells me what I've made, or at least it did for a while. And I looked at it today, and I'm down 50% of my traditional investments, like my traditional coins, like the more mainstream ones, no shit coins. 50%, bro.
Yeah.
What happened to me?
I mean,
can I get some of your 401k?
This is totally normal. So what you're seeing is you're seeing it from basically here, which is where I really saw the main where I kind of felt like it wasn't going to bounce back, and we were definitely moving into a bear market, was around like December 5th and 6th, which was probably a third. I just remember like early December, I was like, oh no, I think we're definitely moving towards the towards a bear market. But I mean, dude, I'm really impressed with what we see here. Like we were talking about this last week, so we bottomed out at 35 right here on this like our last lowest dip, and then you really sort of see. So here's the trend line for where we're at right now. So you do see that we did break through that trend line from our most recent lowest. It's not most recent, but like the lowest in this past quarter. We did just recently break through that. I'm not terribly worried about it. I know a lot of people are. They're screaming that Bitcoin is going to go down to 20 or below 30. I don't know, man. Either way, for me, it's all about accumulation. And I like looking at it like a 401k. Like what I was saying, I don't look at my 401k, right? I just contribute, right? So I sort of look at Bitcoin that way too, where it's like wherever Bitcoin's at, I'm just going to continue to kind of put a little bit into it. But a lot of people don't trade like that, right? They trade to sell like in the near future. I think we're going to probably see a channel, right? So this is going to be like a channel right here. What I really liked is that in this channel, which is a big channel, it's 35 to 47. I think
channel, bro.
I think it's where you get a lot of like sideways trading, a lot of consolidation. So I don't think it's going to be way up there. That's just like the peak. I think our channel is roughly going to be like around here. So I think we're going to start seeing a lot of trading. We can go down to 35. I think you'll start to see it go like from 35, 36 to 40, 42, right? And it'll just continue to bounce around in here. It'll continue to consolidate. But, when you look at, we were going over this last week, this right here is a chart of the price, which is the gray line. The orange line is the balance on exchanges. You see these balances dropping, right? So this is what we were talking about last week about them going into cold wallets and and off exchange. This right here, like this is telling me that people are doing long-term storage. When you've got companies like Fidelity coming in here and they're doing their 401ks, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see more money going into it, which is going to raise the price of Bitcoin. and you're going to see it in long-term storage. So you're going to continue to see the balance on exchanges potentially dropping, right? Because the 401k balance, they're not going to keep that on exchange. They're going to move that for security reasons to cold storage. So I'm not too worried about the market. Anybody who's telling you that they know the market's going to go up or down, they're full of shit. Nobody knows. There's way too many impacts, like from macroeconomics to institutional buys coming in to countries starting to utilize Bitcoin as a payment service. You know, there's too many external factors to even look at this like that. But you know, we saw the market bounce back just today, but at the 1 week change, 1 month, 3 month, 3 month we're actually performance wise up quite a bit on most tokens, but in the last month it's been definitely rough, man. Definitely rough.
Yeah, it's been rough.
Yeah,
I
but
feel
don't
like,
worry, man. Don't worry. It's long term.
Hey, man, worry or not, it's not gonna affect it, right?
Yeah.
I'm all in. I feel like gambling, right? Legalization of gambling, which has spawned a ton of businesses, effectively multiple states that had sports gambling illegal in their state are making it legal and have been over the last 3 or 4 years. That's going to continue. I know that a lot of the gambling sites are accepting Bitcoin as payments. I think that's, like, in my experience, at least, one of the places that I actually spend Bitcoin. I'm curious. It'd be interesting to look at marijuana, right? So the legalization of marijuana is taking place state by state. It just became recreationally legal for sale officially here, or just went up for sale the 21st of April in New Jersey.
Oh, nice.
I think they meant to hit 420, but maybe they got high and they just missed it by a day. But my point is, I remember there was that show on CNN, High Profits. It was really great, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago. And it was chronicling a dispensary in Colorado and the challenges they were having in that federal banks would not accept their cash, right? Because it was legal in the state, but not federally. So federally, it was drug money. So they didn't have any place to put that cash. And I think that's the case still in all states. So I wonder if marijuana is moving into crypto. It seems like a safe place to store their money, and if they are,
crypto is having the same issues. I'm having those issues right now. Like, I have a banker personally coming to my house, which is like the most incredible thing. It was really cool, but
that's old school.
Yeah, no, we're having issues with our company DCAP, right? So, like, we originally got accepted by Bank of America, and then a month later they said, no, we don't want to deal with your type of business. It's like, what are you talking about? It's real estate. Like, what, that we're tokenizing it? Like, you don't you don't like that? They don't like the idea of cryptocurrency. They're not ready for it. And then Chase Bank just said, and this wasn't even to do with anything with crypto. It was actually just private funds. They don't want to deal with private fund management. I don't know. Anyhow, yet marijuana's had a huge issue with that. Cryptocurrency does. With crypto, though, the state of Wyoming is doing huge things to bring crypto into banking. But I think that is a solution. And you know what's crazy about the whole marijuana thing is it wasn't even people just dealing with marijuana, like actual marijuana. Anybody who promoted marijuana products, like I had for my charity, I was helping a company that was selling apparel to help fund like legal funds to help people get out of jail for these cannabis crimes that are like absurd, right? Like where people got caught with cannabis and they went to jail for like a decade, like the most absurd thing ever. One of my best friends founded this charity, and it's incredible. Anyhow, he had troubles with merchant services, right? Because they didn't want to process payments that where the money was going to go to help cannabis offenders or whatever in some degree, and it was all because cannabis is the most wild thing. Like,
man, you know what's interesting on that trend though? Here in
bonkers.
Jersey, I noticed this last week. There are billboards up that say, "Bring home our elders." And it's referring to incarcerated men of color that were taken and put in jail for way too long for marijuana offenses in the 90s. And like, so finally, culturally, it's coming around. Congress just needs to come around.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. All right, man. Well, I think that's gonna wrap it up for this week on Across the Chain. Next week, I think we're gonna focus a little bit more on like how-to stuff and talking about security related issues, like how to trade safer and how to manage your funds safer. It's definitely something we want to focus on. But I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Pat, for joining
Oh,
us. Also, if you guys ever get a chance to check out Pat on Hard Factor, definitely check him out there. It's a hilarious podcast. What's that?
Tell him to plug his socials.
Yeah, I'm being directed by my
oh yeah,
boss
my
to tell
socials
you
are
to plug your socials.
at Hard Factor Pat on Twitter and at P Classity
Yeah,
on
and we should put
Instagram.
that in the descriptions
Hey,
too.
hey, Jared. Before we go, I do want to say one thing on the Twitter Musk thing because I think it's super interesting. So I sent you that Jonathan Haidt interview. I don't know if you got a chance to listen to it, but Haidt, the social scientist, was essentially saying the biggest issue with the internet is anonymity, right? Effectively, you have bots, you have people who feel like they can say shitty things without any sort of repercussion. And he was like, the only way to fix this, the only way to fix the negativity of the internet is to verify humanity, right? So
Yeah.
essentially make sure that the person's actually real. And that doesn't mean like doxing them. It would be anonymous, but you would say, yep, I'm a human. Now, my mind immediately went to, oh, that's Web3, right? That's exactly what Web3 is. It's a signature with a wallet. And then Twitter getting purchased by Elon, Twitter being outside of Discord, well, still the only mainstream social media platform that is doing wallet signatures in the form of NFT profile pics, right? Like they're ahead of the game on that. And then you have Elon who wants to decentralize. It seems like I don't know what it's going to be for cryptocurrency. Those motherfuckers at Doge are so lucky that they tweeted at Elon the right time. But it's huge for Web3. That's for damn sure. Because you
Yeah.
already have Web3 integration on Twitter, and you have the experts agreeing that the internet's only going to get better with verification of human identity. And then you have Elon who wants to decentralize. It's like a perfect storm.
Yeah, no, we actually are dealing with this at DCAP too, because we have to verify investors. Like we have to be an accredited investor, you have to earn a certain amount of money, right? So we have to actually verify how much money you make by reviewing your tax documents. Okay, so this goes
Right.
to a third party company, but essentially once you get cleared by the third party company, we're issuing an NFT, right? And so the only way you can enter our ecosystem is by holding an NFT, and that's going to be very similar to what you're talking about.
Well, it made me think like, obviously, like I think in the future, when babies are born, I don't think they're going to refer to it as birth. They're going to refer to it as minting,
Yeah,
right? Like I minted my baby.
yeah,
And I imagine they'll get a signature on the blockchain,
yeah.
just like they get a birth certificate
With
when they come
exactly.
out. Right?
There's a little known company. They're not little, but nobody would know this unless you're like in IT and stuff. The company's called Okta. They specialize in identity management, right?
Oh,
So
I gotta lock up my kid's identity. That's on my list of things. to
yeah.
do.
So I would be interested to see a global provider of authentication through identity and identity management like Okta. I would be very curious to see them enter the blockchain space because they're already doing it on the corporate side, and this would be a perfect use case for them. I'm sure they're dabbling in it. I would
Hey.
be shocked if they wouldn't.
Maybe
But
we give them a call, but watch the trend, Jared.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah, I will.
Maternity nurses are gonna be like, all right, push, and they're
your
minted.
baby's been minted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like it. All right, Pat. Next week,
Next week,
let's do it next week. Cross the chain.
cross.
Thank
the
you
chain.
for watching.
To it come continuous streams of data.